Good evening. This is day 14, which means I've now wrapped up a second week. Couple little housekeeping things before I get started today. First one, really not housekeeping, but I finally got myself a Voice Plays shirt, and it makes me happy. So I'm wearing some acapella stuff today. I'm a geek, I admit it. Second, the journal entry today is going to be shorter. Probably than usual. As I explain the day's session, that'll make sense, and I'm hoping to stabilize it at a slightly longer length in time as I figure out what segments I want to put in. Also, journal posts like this one are going to be coming out later in the day going forwards. Sort of like this one is coming out for the East Coast in the evening. As I go through the journal entry, it'll make more sense, and I'll explain it and then reflect back on it. Today ended up being less about discovery and more about confirming what I can actually handle. So today it was primary Boulevard, secondary Be Prepared. And Boulevard wound up being a full performance level engagement. I continued standing, and I'm actually now standing for all my recording. I kept the energy up, and I did not hold back on projection. I joked with Boulevard that maybe there was a little timidity because I don't want to wake up my family in the morning, but I basically went for it about 9:30 this morning. Now, what became clear pretty quickly is that access to my upper range, especially in that chorus, which I call section 3, it's not an issue anymore. Those notes exist. They're there. The real challenge now is how I spend that energy across the entire piece. So there's still a tendency to over-deliver the chorus and under-support everything else. But, as the session progressed, I brought the overall energy level up all around and sustained it. So the chorus was sort of punching at an entry and then falling back. And really what I wanted to do was pull that punch down just a little bit and take everything else up to that level, which I did. And like I said, the important part is everything held. The system and the technique completely continued on in a straight line. More than that, actually, so the question is, did it hold together? And the answer to that is, not only did it hold together, it produced new things that I've never come in contact with from singing. It opened new doors to me in my ability to add layers into performance for singing. By the time I got to my last 2 takes, the chorus wasn't just technically stable, it was actually picking up some of the emotional intent. I remember at one point, for emphasis, I pointed at the wall in conjunction with lyrics because I was expressing how I felt about it. So now I'm at the next layer of work, and it's not about reaching the notes anymore, it's what to do with them once they're there. So we're talking tone, color, expression, the theatrical intent behind the music. And that's all coming into play now. And nothing fell down. Nothing ended because it broke. It ended because I basically hit my physical limit. I was fatigued. I was spent after 3 takes. That's a very new place for me to be. There's one other thing that I want to add that surprised me a lot. I had done theater as a kid, in high school, I majored in it in college, which is pretty much why I wound up a software engineer for 35 years. It pays more than waiting tables. But through all that time, it was performance theater, not musical theater, that I was in. Love musical theater, but I didn't sing much. I'm just getting my training now. And I could perform songs in my range. I knew what to do with that. Now I have an entire area of notes that never existed to me before. There's an entire part of my range that is a new tool. And really, for the first time in my life, I don't know how to perform with this. I have to learn how theatricality, if that's a word, works with this new range, how to put those pieces together. And I'm fascinated. So whereas yesterday I mentioned I hit a plateau, today I'm beginning to climb up from the plateau. So once again, I'm down near the bottom, scrabbling my way up the start of the hill. But with so many new things on my belt clip. Okay, second session today, the secondary session, was Be Prepared. And that was intentionally today a low intensity pass. I walked into that one knowing I am fatigued, and I even took a few hours between the two. So here I am in mid-afternoon trying to do Be Prepared, and as I expected, no low end. I posted the early morning video of myself, I think yesterday, of what my voice sounds like in the morning. So in Be Prepared, the A1s and the G1, they weren't sitting there the same way they do in the morning. Everything else held together. Coordination is staying intact, and the phrasing, the energy, I'm beginning to put more character in. But again, I am taking it to a level that I've never worked with music before, and I'm having to figure out how to mold it. And as I've spoken a lot over the last 2 weeks, the big emphasis was everything worked best when I didn't push it, when I just accepted it for what it was. So if I just let the intensity be the intensity that felt right, if I just balanced the output, everything was getting better. So even though I was fatigued and in the morning, just I was catching my breath after I was done. But even in that state later in the afternoon, everything held together. Nothing collapsed, and it was great. So there's the confirmation that I had. The underlying coordination is getting reliable beyond just ideal conditions. But one other thing that became very clear today is what I could call the shift between access and control. I wasn't trying to build notes anymore. I was just using them. The concept being, I've hit them. I know they're there in some fashion. So just use the tools that are there, and the tools include the notes. The way I kept it in my head was, I know how to fashion the note in question. I know how to control the muscles that set the frequency for the note that expresses. And that's why, even if it's inaudible, I know when I'm making a G1 or an A1. I can feel it. It's actually how I learned some of the bass songs that I'm singing now, is that I would listen, try to match the tone, and learn how it felt. So the mentality was, if the note comes out, it comes out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But at least I'm manufacturing it right and holding the energy together. So, based on all of what happened today, I am adjusting um, how I practice music going forward for a little while, and also how I'm structuring the day. Now, as it stands right now, I have a primary rehearsal and a secondary rehearsal. The primary rehearsal is to get 3 or 4 repetitions so that I can grow. I can bring new ideas or new experimentation to the piece. The secondary is 1, maybe 2 iterations just to make sure I haven't lost anything from the previous day. And primary and secondary alternate from day to day between if it's Boulevard or if it's Be Prepared. None of that has changed. What has changed is that regardless if it's primary or secondary, Be Prepared will be the one I do in the early morning, and Boulevard will be the one I do in the afternoon. It depends heavily on the access. The A1 and the G1 that I need for Be Prepared are much more robust in the morning. And by placing it there, I'm not focusing on how well is that note coming out. I don't want to think about how well a note is coming out. I want to remain in that place of I'm doing what I need to for that note. What do I need to do for the phrase? So performance, phrasing, character, all that is what I really want to focus on now that I'm locking in technique. And it also protects Be Prepared from the potential fatigue of Boulevard requiring so much more energy out of me so far. Also, because Boulevard has higher notes and my upper range opens up later in the day, that's when I can fully commit. As an example, Boulevard requires an F4 to start each line of the first chorus. And I try to warm up by walking up from about a C2 to get up to a B4. And this morning when I started, or was it yesterday morning? But when I had, no, it was this morning because I started with Boulevard. I really couldn't get past, say an E3. The G, the G was getting difficult, and that was before I even tried to press in to the 4th octave. So I can get, again, notes without thinking about are those notes going to come. I can trust myself more and let it go out. And again, fatigue later in the day rather than the beginning of the day. But the important thing is, this is temporary. This is not a permanent change because I can't perform a song based entirely on what time of the day it'll be best. You watch most of the a cappella groups that tour, you got to be able to do your set whenever that show is. So what I'm doing is I'm stepping back from being concerned about growing notes because they are growing with each iteration. However, I will return to that in time. Right now, I want to pay attention to the piece and how it's growing as a whole. So, today, it wasn't about pushing further. It was about making sure that everything holds together and just exists when I expect it to exist. But at the same time, with Boulevard, I put complete full demand on, and I got fatigued on that final take and still held it together. And once I've got that thoroughly locked in, I don't have to rebuild it. I can move forward. I can use it more intelligently. Now, where this all leads is that I was doing my primary and my secondary in the morning. And it wasn't working. So now I'm doing be prepared in the morning when I can get access to my low notes. I'm doing Boulevard in the afternoon when I'm a little more open. However, having work life balance, having a family, um, I do log summaries of each session, and then I build my outline for my journal entry from the notes of what I've done throughout the day. If I do my Boulevard in the afternoon, I don't get to putting this journal together until, as it is now, it's, what is it, about 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern? So this is why going forward, in all likelihood, the journal will come out in the evening. Um, as that's pretty much it. Um, People are telling me I should be doing the whole subscribe and like thing at the very top of the journal, and I'm like, no, just, if you're here, if you're still watching this, what the content was must have in some way talked to you, and I'd rather you subscribe because of the content, not because I kind of needle you to do so beforehand. But things are, I'm getting feedback on platforms. I'm not necessarily getting a whole bunch of comments on the YouTube page, and I'm not worried about that. But the fact that people are interacting with me is really, it's not that it's benefiting the page, it's benefiting me at this early stage of my journey. It's giving me sort of a pat on the head that, yeah, I'm going in the right direction so far. And again, those of you who are watching at this point, honestly, you are part of the reason that I'm getting that pat on the head and feeling like I'm going down the right path. And I, as always, thank you for that one. Okay, that's it for day 14. Like I said, a bit shorter today. I know I rambled a little bit in places, but thank you for watching. I'll be back tomorrow, starting my third week of journal entries. Bye.